many women that they feel like they have to be strong. They feel like they have to stay in situations that don't serve them. They feel like they have to, they feel like they have to fix everything. When Black women, we carry the burden of always wanting to be the superhero in the family, where we're protecting our spouses, our children, our mental health, and it had a tremendous effect on her even showing up as her true self. Why is it that women, they settle, they stay in situations that don't serve them, and in the end they become another form or a half form of themselves?
I knew that I was going to have to teach my audience or the viewer to unlearn all of those exploitive images and start to see Black women seeing each other. You're still going to step forward in that desire. What does the Black woman sound like when she is experiencing pleasure?
Não precisa reproduzir ou escrever o cinema com os códigos que estão pré-estabelecidos.
We don't need to make movies using the days, language, and codes as we were taught.
Porque se a gente pensa que somos corpos diferentes,
because if we think we are different bodies,
e se a gente entende que a câmera é uma extensão do nosso corpo,
and if we understand that the camera is an extension of our bodies,
nosso corpo e nossa câmera vai se mover diferente.
Our body and our cameras will move differently.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Dirty South block for the Black Film Supremacy Film Festival. I'm so excited to be moderating this block today. We have an amazing filmmaker and writer that's going to come and tell you all about her film. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the festival, though, before we get started. And again, my name is Alexandra Boone. So the festival, the Black Film Supremacy Film Festival, is an independent homegrown film festival that empowers marginalized communities, particular Black and queer filmmakers through media. We have screened over 100 films to thousands of people in 70 cities and 12 countries, both virtually and in person, since we launched in 2018. You can read more about our films and the works that we produce and provide on our website. This year's film festival is 100% online, running from September 4th through September 10th. Get your tickets today, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up Megs, who is going to tell us about her film. Hello. Muted.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Megs, also known as Megan Trufant-Tillman. I am a writer, filmmaker, and musician, and my areas of interest is pretty much Black life in the South, really slow burning storytelling, and, just getting our stories out there.
Love that. So where are you actually from originally? Some background on you.
I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, 7 Ward to be more specific.
Nice. Okay, I do hear the accent. I did just hear it after you said that. It makes sense now. Okay. So let's get into what originally inspired you to do filmmaking, and then what continues to inspire you if it's different.
Yeah, I think I've always been a writer. I've always been a storyteller ever since I could remember. probably like 7 or 8 years old, just writing those little kitty stories. And then I used to think for a while that what got me into filmmaking was more of college and just taking a few film production courses and screenwriting, playwriting courses. But just recently, I looked at my high school yearbook and saw that I put movie producer on my career path for an answer. And so apparently, I've been kind of into it and just, inspired by storytelling enough to get into the film world since then. And now it's just really understanding the art form more, understanding, my own voice and my own stories more, that, I know that, this is a vehicle that I feel comfortable with, and also a vehicle that challenges me. And that's what kind of keeps me inspired to create film nowadays.
Love it. Do you feel like where you grew up is like breeding ground for filmmaking and for creative arts in general, or is it something that you had to seek out yourself and really work towards, or maybe even move in different environments to get?
Yeah, I think, growing up in New Orleans, I think we're all just born with something in our bones, some, music or, creative arts. We're very visual, very colorful people. But I think that, nurturing our skill sets and our creativity is a little, difficult sometimes, especially, depending on where you're from. And where I'm from, resources are limited, and we don't really see that future for ourselves. We don't have that many examples. And now I see the shift. We have brilliant, talented filmmakers coming from New Orleans right now and doing amazing work. So I see it changing. But back when I was growing up, I had to kind of figure it out. And I moved to Texas after Hurricane Katrina, and we had so many courses that I was never used to. Stuff like robotics and filmmaking and, things I could never imagine like learning in high school, let alone college. And it just kind of opened my world a little bit. And, now I know I want to kind of bring that back home.
It's cool. Okay. So what is your artistic process from writing to production? Does it start off with just an idea? Do you like close your eyes and hit dreamland and a script appears? Like, what is the process?
Yeah, well, most of the time my idea lives in my head like a lot longer
Okay.
than the whole production process itself. So I kind of just live with these characters, or live with like just this little small piece or glimpse of a story. And I just really just every night before bed, I'm just kind of running through little scenes, running through little dialogue. And finally I sit down and, start pouring out, some of the initial ideas. I'll kind of just, freestyle, jam on some writing. And then, at some point, I convince myself to take it to the next level and be like, all right, let's write the script. Let's try it. But for Little Trumpet specifically, it was just a random day. I was, I had just gotten into freelance work, and I just wanted to go to the library and write. And this story just kind of came out. It was one of the only projects where I hadn't even thought about these people before, or thought about this setting before. It just kind of really just flowed out. I don't know, but I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, that means it's meant to be. So I'm curious. So most of what all of what you just said is more of like a isolated process. It seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever like join writers groups or do anything with others? Like, how do you build a team around you when you're creating a project, if you do?
Yeah, I mean, for most of my projects, it's a huge collaborative experience. And I'm a type of person where I'm driven by working with other people, and I love to kind of put ideas together in a blender, get it all going. So I love working with other people. Specifically with my writing, I work with my partner a lot. She's also a producer on the film, Kimiko Matsuda Lawrence. She's a talented writer, and we just kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And, she tells me what's hot, what's not. And then I take it to, yeah, exactly. I take it to my musical partners from there, because, we all work with a sense of rhythm and just, just like a pacing and a vibe, and just kind of building character. And if my friends are, digging the people, then I feel like, okay, let's kind of keep, meshing on it. So it's a really cool experience.
Cool. Okay. And we will get into the music piece later because I definitely felt a rhythmic, like it was like I could hear the soundtrack like throughout and I could visually see it and hear the soundtrack of like what was going
You
on. It's
might
like the
be
music.
frozen.
I might be frozen. Oh,
Oh, there we go.
okay. I was saying we'll get to the more musical part of it towards the end because I definitely heard like a soundtrack, and the soundtrack basically tells the audience how to feel in that moment or kind of helps them make that decision. So I thought that was really cool. So now we'll get into more of your setting choices. So I can clearly tell it was the South, it was the accent, it was the style of homes, the community neighborhood, but I could not exactly pinpoint which city or which state. So was it New Orleans or was it maybe Florida?
It
Or
was New Orleans, yeah. But it's interesting you say that because I see a lot of parallels, with the whole South, but more specifically like New Orleans and Florida, Miami.
Yeah.
It all kind of feels really familiar, and it kind of really drives home that point that a lot of us are living like the same types of lives, and we just kind of want to see ourselves. And I think there's a lot of people in the South that can maybe see this and feel like, oh, that feels like home to me, like going to the corner store, like riding my bike, engaging with my neighbors. Like, that's just a really Southern thing. And I think, I would like my voice to, speak for the entire South, but more specifically New Orleans as well. But yeah, we shot it in New Orleans in the Seventh Ward where I'm from, specifically right around the corner from where I grew up. So
okay, nice. That's actually my next question. I was like, did you grow up in a neighborhood very similar to that? It was like the setting was set through painting of different images, but it was also in the interactions with the community members. Like clearly the main character was known by the community. Like when he went into the corner store, they knew his name. They knew, okay, I know your mom's the street. Your mom should know that you're here. Like it felt familiar, and that also helped paint the setting and paint the scene.
Yeah, we were really only like a few houses up from the house my mom grew up in, and we were only right around the corner from where I grew up. And the corner store we shot in was the corner store I grew up going to. So it was a very like home-based project, and it just kind of felt like returning. It was like our homecoming, and I really felt that love from the community that I grew up with. Like some of my best friends since I was like 7, are in the film.
Oh, who? Which ones?
I don't think you can see them, but the person driving the car, or technically driving both cars, that's my childhood best friend, who came through clutch last minute and helped us lend us cars. And the cook is my godmother, and so it's just a really a family project. The clerk at the store is actually the son of the clerks that I used to grow up, going to. So it's really like connected, and we know each other. We know this story because it's like we've lived it,
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Was there well, after you've done a film like this, is there a draw, like, because it feels so much like home, to keep going and keep doing films that are set specifically in in New Orleans?
Yeah, I tell people all the time that that's my primary goal is to bring, I mean, not alone or not in an isolated way, but bring more voices, from the South to the forefront, and just like so they can see, where we're from, and so they can see us, and so that we can see ourselves and some of the work that's out there, stuff that makes it to Hollywood. But it's just always been important for me to like specifically work with the South and work in the South, because I think it's a voice and and just, yeah, it's mainly a voice that I feel like is overlooked, or it's kind of told in this like one note way, like all the accents are the same, or you just think South and they just start throwing accents out, but it's very specific, depending on where you are. And I think the more that we can encourage filmmakers to make films, based in the South, we'll start to really see an accurate reflection of what it really is like down there. And we have so many important and just gripping stories to tell, and I really want people to, in the words of Outkast, the South got something to say. We out here.
Those are very inspirational words. I also noticed that the setting was painted in the eyes of band culture, like, and not just any band culture, but Southern band culture. If you know anything about band, I went to an HBCU, so I know about the band. If you know anything about the band, you know it's a big deal. And the further south you go, and of course the blacker it gets, the more it is a thing. It is a huge urban culture point, and it was really cool to see that. It looked like mainly high school band, unless high school band.
Yeah, and that's huge in New Orleans because like, you know, while other people do sports or like the basketball team, the football team, you know, for us it's like being in the band and you know, Mardi Gras season comes around and that's your season, that's your time to shine. And you know, so all the kids want to be in band, all the kids want to march, you know, even if you just end up being a color guard, it's like really important to kind of, you know, be in that mix. And if you don't, or if you're not necessarily, you know, a musical person, like you can appreciate it and you know how important it is, you know, as you know, VCU culture, you know how important it is to, you know, have a band that you have pride in and, you know, you feel really connected to. They're playing the music you like. And, you know, it's just our way of speaking. It's our way of living. And I really want to kind of show that culture because, you know, a lot of people see sports culture, but they don't really see like, what that means for us in the South, which is music, you know.
Yeah, I definitely stay in the halftime show for the band.
It's the best part.
It is literally the best part. It is hilarious. Actually, I saw a video and it was talking about the differences between if you go to a white school for their band, like everyone gets up during halftime, and that's when you go to snacks. Black people, it's like, no, we're sitting here.
Yeah,
we're going to watch the band. We're going to listen to the band. So I thought that was really cool,
right.
And that seemed to be the inspiration for the main character, which I'm about to get into, who was a child, which is interesting. Most people don't paint the child in the story as the main character. And one of the themes that I noticed is stay in the child's place. Like he really, if I actually looked through it, he didn't say too many words. And the words that he did say, or some of the sentences that he did try to start, were often stopped or shut down, as in stay in a child's place. I know what's best for you. Right. Was that on purpose, or what were some of your thoughts about making the eyes of the film a child?
Yeah, I think when I originally wrote it, and I tell people a lot, there are pieces of Javon that is like me. And not necessarily my exact story or what I always felt as a child, but something, you know, that we're just kind of, or a way of being that we're conditioned to, you know. So like you said, it's like stay in the child's place, or like I have the answer, you don't ask questions, you know. And I really, when I wrote it, I didn't really have any like objective or like goal with it, but it just kind of came out as like real, like what I experienced and like what I felt and what I knew other kids like me were feeling around that age, and what I still see, you know, when I go back home, I see that interaction. Or when my mom watched it for the first time, she was like, I remember hearing people say, like, we just know, you know, you know it when you see it. And it's a real feeling for a child. And I specifically wanted to tell it through this lens because I feel like, you know, children are the most underrepresented. They often don't have voices. And as you know, as you mentioned, you know, they're told to be quiet or just kind of, you know, accept things as fact. And without really saying how I felt about it, I just wanted to just put it out there and just kind of show what that dynamic was like, and hopefully get people to see like how children may feel shut down in that way, and like you know, start to have a dialogue around it, and you know, have a conversation about like, you know, how should we interact with children? And like, you know, if Javon could have a voice, if he could just say like, you know, can I play the trumpet? Like, could you help me? You know, these things that he asked for in the film, if people were listening to him, you know, how would his journey be, and how would that, you know, dictate where he's going in life? So I just wanted to give a very like authentic picture of like how we felt as children, kind of being in those positions. And, you know, no character is like necessarily wrong because we all have our reasons, but it's, you know, it definitely affects this child and how he's going to grow up to be.
Yeah, One of my favorite things about seeing Black kids on film is I'm always waiting for the moment where they just get to be kids. And I feel like that moment in your film, because like a lot of Black kids, by the time they hit 10, maybe even 12, they know that their life is not as crystal clear as some of their other counterparts. But in your film, what I noticed is, let's go outside, and the kid can't go outside to play. I was like, that's such a kid moment. That's just free from trauma. That's free from a lot of things. It's just a kid moment. We all want to go down and we all want to play. We all want to be outside. Let's be outside. You can't be outside. You stuck on the porch. Ha ha ha. It was very cute, and it was very human. And speaking of no character is necessarily wrong, when I first noticed the mom's character, she seemed very stern. She seemed borderline mean, to be honest, to Javon, who's the main character. She's kind of like using him as like an errand boy. But what you see a few moments into the film is that she's just scared. Like, she's very fearful. She's very protective, but she's very fearful that her child will end up like her other child who died. And I like how it's not actually explicitly stated that he died. It's her saying, I'm not losing another child. And you hear that he died through the pain of her voice. And it sounds like she's trying to stop a cycle from happening with her last child. She's looking at him like, you're my only hope, because the middle child, from what we see, is also kind of out here in the streets, and she kind of got like one foot on him, and he's kind of like one foot out the door as well. Right. So I think it's an interesting family structure, how you kind of put that together, if you want to expound more on the family structure.
Yeah, I mean, in New Orleans too, and I'm sure across many households, like even crossing like, Black, white. I mean, I know that it just exists out here where, you try not to repeat, the mistakes of the past. And, a lot of the ways that, we're controlled as children is like, through our parents, like fear and what they don't want us to do, what cycles they don't want us to repeat. And it does come across as like mean in the beginning. And a lot of that is just kind of like some New Orleans people way of like communicating, but, you kind of see where it comes from. And, I've had, many friends, that I've lost to gun violence. I've had, my uncle passed away in a similar way. And, now when I go down there, my aunt always wants to know where I am. And, when I'm coming in a very Jeanette way, not as mean, but I know where it comes from, because like there was a time where, you let your loved one do their thing and they're out and they're, in the streets and they don't come back home. And that's real for a lot of people. And, I guess I wanted to just show that in these family dynamics, it's just not as simple as it seems. It's not as like, oh, just let the kid live, or just, because some kids are doing absolutely nothing wrong, and they're still just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And there's really no way to, fight that or protect them against that, but you try your hardest regardless. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to show here, was that, especially as a Black woman, a lot of people want to critique how we raise our children and, how we protect them. And I think they're just trying their best. And, sometimes that's not always the perfect way, but we're human. And I just want to tell human stories, whether it gets ugly sometimes or whether it gets, hard to accept sometimes. Like, we all are out here living. And if we don't really show that in a real way, then there's this kind of this like fantasy thing going on that we never really kind of face this head on or really talk about it. And I think talking about it could actually do a lot for the situation. So
I definitely agree. I definitely felt that the story was very human, very relatable, even if you are not from the South, even if you don't necessarily identify with the community or identify with the band culture, identify with any of that. I feel like you could still watch it and still feel something and be able to draw and pick from it what you can. And like I said earlier, I feel like music, the background music really helped in telling the story and picturing it. It was all classical music for the most part. And it seemed to be Javon, who was the kid, it seemed to be his solace. Like it seemed to be his inspiration whenever he just felt like, dang, again, or okay, well, music would be like the first thing that he turned to. And he was almost begging for someone to teach him how to play, but it was almost like he was begging for like, see me. I'm a
Yes.
child. I know I'm here, but like I'm begging you, see me, please. So I thought that was very cool. And just the parallels and how the music advanced the story and didn't just it wasn't just there because it sounded good.
Yeah. And that's what we have as, our escapist children. We find that thing that we like, or that thing that kind of distracts us from the real world, or the thing that we still believe in, because, he has went through this trauma as well. He's lost a brother just like Jeanette's lost a son.
Mhm.
But we don't really have the language to talk through that at that age, or we don't really always know what it is we're feeling. And sometimes we just kind of turn to like our outlets. And, for Javon, or even for me as a child, music was that outlet.
Definitely. Do you play instrument?
I do not, but I use my ears and I try to.
I feel you. Okay.
I'm around lots of lots of musicians. I work in the Austin music scene, and I'm always around music, always surrounded by. I can speak the language, but I've never picked up the instrument. I mean, I played around, but I'm not gonna tell people that seriously.
Got it. Okay. All right. So as we are getting ready to close out this great conversation, I'm wondering if you could, in your own words, because we talked a lot about the film, like the characters and the setting, in your own words, kind of like sum it up. Like if you were giving like a pitch for the film on why people should watch it or what they're going to get from it, what would that be?
I would say that, this film is a sign and a voice to, again, an underrepresented community, children who have been through things, and who need to process what they've gone through, and they probably won't process it until later in life. But, I really want to use this as a way to open up the floor, and, give people a chance to really discuss, like, childhood trauma, and like all the different ways that it manifests, and how there is still hope at the end of that. And that's why we need to nurture our children. We need to really nurture their like skills and their creative abilities, and really listen to them, because I think at the heart of this story, I want audiences to feel like, maybe they can start having this conversation of like, how can we check on our children? How can we make sure that the things that we see them going through, and the things that we're going through, how that's all connected, and really give them a voice in the conversation, because children know and they feel things. And I think I just want people to watch this and, leave feeling like it's a real human story. And, if you can find something to relate to within it, like that's kind of the goal, because we're all human, we're all making mistakes, and we're all not getting it right all the time. But, it's just a real human story.
Definitely. I love that. And I feel like it's told from many different point of views too. And the child being the main one and reminding us that children do have thoughts, feelings. They just don't have the autonomy all the time.
Right.
And I always find it interesting how we tell children, stay in a child's place until you're 18, and then we kick them out and wonder why they need they're not fully formed adults. They're 18, right, but they haven't been able to make one choice on their own since birth.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and that's the conversation that I hope that this sparks of, do you know a child in your family who may have gone through some things, and, has anyone talked to them, or has anyone asked them, like, what do you want to do for fun, or what's going to help you kind of release, some of this pain you're feeling, or grief or guilt, because it's real. And I think that the earlier on we could talk about it and, really discuss it, I think, the better outcome.
Nice. I agree as well. So, are there any final words that you would like to say to the audience about Little Trumpet? I'm very excited for other people to watch it. I was really sitting there. I was like, oh my gosh, it's very poetic. And the slow burn that you were talking about and where you like to live in your film space, I definitely felt it. I definitely felt it. It was very poetic. It was very beautiful. It wasn't a sped up story at all. I felt like it's only it's about 30 minutes or a little less than that actually. And I saw character development within like the 30 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just want everyone to kind of feel that and just like be on that journey with us. Take your time, and feel it, because like we're in these moments with these characters, and that's just what I want people to take from it.
Love it. Okay. And I actually think we are rounding out now, but I do want to remind people to please go ahead and buy your tickets at the film website, and that is bfsfilmfest.com. And thank you, Meg, so much for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.